Welcome to Bike World, welcome to Italy. The lads have sent me to this beautiful, glorious location to freeze my off. The last time I rode the rally was with Chris, and I believe it was in Sardinia, and it was beautiful, sunny, and I sat in a chair like this getting a suntan. The last time I rode the Multistrata V4S, it was equally beautiful. Today, it's been sub-zero temperatures, it's about to snow, but that has been a good test of the new Multistrata V4 Rally. Because if you want to test rider aids and clever suspension and clever technology, then the lack of grip has actually been a bit of a godsend. So we are in northern Italy, not too far from Ducati HQ in Bologna. This is the new Ducati Multistrata Rally V4. Now essentially for 2026, they're giving it tech from, well, you could say from the Panigale and the Multistrada. So it's a big improvement in tech, which results in a big improvement in safety and comfort. So the big talking point, I guess, is the DVO, which is the Ducati Vehicle Observation. Basically more sensors and virtual reality sensors, so sensors that are predicting what's happening to let the suspension and the rider aids have an easier time and work out what's happening. So the suspension is actually understanding how I'm riding and what I'm doing, which is impressive. We got auto leveling on the suspension, so I'm in auto at the moment, so it's working out the Skyhook Marzocchi suspension, what is actually happening and how I'm riding. I'm in touring mode, and I've also got the automatic lowering system, so that takes preload out the shock at low speeds, means I can touch the floor. I've got new rear cylinder deactivation, which knocks off the back two cylinders at low speeds. Heated seat and heated grips. The heated grips are standard, the heated seat isn't. That's all done with some new switch gear, which I'll press. So I've got seat on one side and grips on the other. They're quite high because it's freezing. Little changes to the clocks and the dash. Little changes to the locking mechanism on the panniers. Engine stays the same V4 as in terms of power. In terms of torque, sub is a little bit different. That's my blind spot detection working. Yeah, there's a lot of tech going on this bike. I love how it's wet, 4 degrees, thick fog, but in usual Italian style we just go banzai. What is it, 170 brake V4 I think off the top of my head? It's a lot of ill riders and a lot of electronics keeping you safe, and you got to kind of just, when you ride it hard and it's tricky and damp like this, you just got to trust it. So essentially what Ducati have done is grabbed all the rider aids and all the technology from the Multistrada V4S that me and Chris have ridden and put it on the Rally. Now it's not that easy of just plug and play, because the V4 Rally has a bigger fuel tank, 30 litres, it weighs more, it's got more longer travel suspension, it's a little bit more of a globetrotter and a little bit more off-road bias than the Multistrada V4S. Obviously if you want to go banzai off-road, you've got the Desert X, and you've even got enduro models, because don't forget Ducati now do that. Ducati label this as a globetrotter, so this is the bike you would take on the world, and yeah, I think you could. So what has it got? Well, Ducati essentially put everything from the V4S. So we've got the DVO, which we first saw on the Panigale. The DVO is essentially like having a mega brain that works out what is happening. It predicts what the suspension's going to do. It predicts how you're riding. We've got semi-active Skyhook suspension from Marzocchi. Again, there's now an auto. So in that auto, you don't have to be in dynamic or sport or comfort or low grip. It just does it for you. Just flick it in that and the suspension sorts itself. The front end is now talking to the back end. So if the front end goes over a speed hump, it kind of goes, hey, rear, expect a big bump shortly, and it reacts and changes accordingly. That is very clever. In terms of rider aids, It's got everything. Cornering traction control, cornering ABS, anti-wheelie. We've got adaptive cruise control. We've got a radar at the front. We've got a radar at the back. We've got blind spot detection, and all this can be changed on or off. In terms of ABS, there's 3 of those, and in 3, the front does the back and the back does the front. In 2, the front does the back, but the back has no effect on the front. And in 1, the front does just the front with a tiny little bit of back, depending on which mode you're in. Obviously, that changes slightly when you're in enduro mode. What's interesting is you can feel this working, the back doing the front when you're in the touring mode, but it does it less as you're leaning into the corner. Because it's not just a simple, the back pedal is on, I'll put the front lever on. It's working out what lean angle you're doing, how fast you're going, are you going up the gearbox, down the gearbox. So it won't throw on loads of front brake if you've got loads of lean in wet mode, for example. Very, very clever. And these conditions have been a perfect scenario and a perfect way to test all those rider aids and those conditions out. You can feel the link braking working, you can feel the ABS working, you can feel the traction control working, you can feel the auto suspension working, and it all kind of comes together to make a Multistrata V4 Rally with 170 brake and nearly 125 newton meters of torque, 220 kilograms, a doddle to ride in these conditions, which it really shouldn't. Slippery, awful conditions, and I can feel the ABS working, I can feel the traction working, I can feel the suspension trying its best, this Skyhook Mazuki. It's worth mentioning that the tyres are working well. And because I feel safe, even though I'm riding 25 grand's worth of 170 horsepower adventure bike, I can push on a little bit more. And I can also take time to look at, see what's happening, take in this beautiful scenery here in northern Italy and enjoy the bike. A bike this big with this much power shouldn't be that easy to ride in these conditions. We're not going to have the opportunity to test the enduro mode because it's just too boggy, too muddy and too horrible. We're going to have to give that to Chris, who's going to try and break it off-road in the future. What we wanted to do was just give it a little bit of a road test here in northern Italy. We already praised the technology on the Multistrata V4S, and it's essentially the same technology retweaked for the rally. There's a lot of tech on that bike, but it's not too overly complicated. You can go down a bit of a rabbit hole and get a little bit too deep into it. But honestly, for 90% of the day, I just had it in touring mode with the suspension on auto, simple. And when I came to a standstill, I left the shock in the auto mode, so it took out the preload, which meant I can get my 2 little feet on the ground every time. And self-lowering. And then once you get going, it puts the preload back in and it goes back to a normal ride height. When you ride it off-road, it does this at a different speed and at a different time. And also when you ride off-road, you can take that system off. For example, if you were stuck in a massive rut, for example. The rear deactivation, which knocks off the back 2 cylinders, I wish there was a button that kept the back 2 cylinders on, because that would generate a little bit more heat. But that's a real clever system as well. It's one of those bikes, it's like almost like a Swiss Army knife of adventure bikes, because when you think they've not thought of something, they have. When you think, oh, the pillion, oh no, they've got a heated seat for the pillion. Oh, when you take the panniers, oh no, you can open the panniers without the key once the panniers are off. They've thought of that. When you ride it, oh yeah, the bash plate, yeah, that's thicker. The grips have 5 levels of heat. The dash is fairly straightforward. It's kind of half backlit. They've ticked every box that you would think imaginable. Price in the UK is just going to be over £25,000, which in anybody's world is quite a lot of money. Then if you add a few optional extras like the travel pack and the panniers and the heated seat, that price will soon start to escalate. But I think I said exactly the same thing when I rode the BMW GS and GS Adventure, because that does the same thing. And we're going to be jumping on the KTM shortly. So that'll be interesting to see how they compare on price and specification. It'll be also interesting when we get the group test together. But what I can say is I've so enjoyed riding this bike, despite the fact it's freezing cold, despite the fact it's about to snow, despite the fact I've got another hour and a half to get back to the factory. I'm actually looking forward to it. The bodywork, the wind protection, the big tank, the heat grip, the heated seat, the ergonomics. I would not only just ride this bike back to Bologna, I would continue riding this bike, head north through Italy, tour through Europe, and ride it all the way back to the UK. So if I was going around the world, would I buy or would I attempt it on a Ducati Rally? Yeah. This is the ultimate adventure traveller. The only 2 question marks about the bike, for me, is the screen should it be electronic because it's manual? And then the big question mark will obviously be how it goes against the competition and what it's like off-road. But we'll hand that bit over to Chris to see what he thinks it's going to be like on a 25 grand plus bike off-road. If you want to know any technical questions as ever, or you want to check out one of our previous videos, there's a great shot of Chris jumping the previous bike, and there's a great review by me and Chris on the V4S Standard, then please check them out. And if you want to know anything technical, fire some questions below. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Didn't think it'd be that much fun in these conditions. What an advanced, awesome travel bike.